Welcome to another episode. Today we will be seeing about the words. Our lecture is on the words. This is actually an answer to a question. We human beings are going wrong somewhere. Where exactly are we going wrong? Don't we realize it? That is the question. Actually, human beings have all the wisdom, all the knowledge for understanding and carrying out and living their life beautifully with compassion and understanding. But where we go wrong, we take word for real, knowledge for understanding. But word is not the thing, knowledge is not the thing. Action is the reality, understanding is the reality. Words are taken or given undue importance, so people manipulate the words. That gives a deception, not the reality. Word is supposed to be used to communicate the reality, communicate your feelings, but we manipulate, and it no longer is the reality. That is one of the major problems in life, why we go wrong. So we will see a few lines from J.Krishnamurti's talks and dialogues in Saanen and in Europe in 1968, both talks in 1968. Here, first he is talking to a listener who has come to attend his meeting, his talks, who was telling, I am understanding the words. Then J. Krishnamurti was telling, it has no meaning. You are understanding the words, nothing else. You are listening to the words. You can listen to the words and understand the meaning of the words. But that has no real meaning unless there is a transformation in you. There should be an action. The action is, it should bring about a transformation. If you say I intellectually understand, the reasoning is fairly good, somewhat logical, but the actual action is not there. If it does not take place, then it has no meaning. There is a gap between the words and the understanding. There is a gap between the intellectual knowledge and action, and that gap brings about conflict. How can that gap be bridged? If there is a fire in the house, then you act immediately. Either you extinguish it or you run away from the house. There is an immediate action. There is no gap between the understanding and action. It is not an intellectual concept. Now, why should we say that we understand intellectually? Why does that become dominant? I am sure you all feel you understand intellectually. But how to put that into action? How to bridge the gap between the understanding or intellectual understanding or the real understanding, intellectual understanding and action? What is the hindrance? When you say, I hear what you are talking about, I hear the words, It is like a man who has plenty of money and he hears the word generosity, but he is not generous actually. So it has no meaning. He says, I have grasped what you are talking about, but I am not going to give money to anyone. So piling up the words, arguments, explanation is not important. What is important is rather to bring about in each one of us a deep revolution, a deep psychological mutation. We live in words. To us, the words mean the very thing. The word God is not God, but the word God is tremendously important to a believer. But the word has no meaning unless you realize what is God. The door is not the door. The microphone is not a microphone. They are merely words. The reality, of course, is there, and you have to see the reality. And we live with the images, image of a church, image of a temple. So words should actually mean something. You should have the understanding of that. On the contrary, to understand any complex human problem, one must be completely in communion with it. That is, one must give one's mind and one's heart to the understanding of this question. So how to bridge a gap, that was asked, and the gap is bridged when you give your whole heart to it, to understanding of the question, your whole heart, mind, and when you are in communion with that, not merely words, then you understand. That brings about right action. So one has to listen with great deal of attention, care and affection, not merely live in the intellectual communication, not just listening to a series of words. Words don't bring about radical change. It is your understanding, your own depth of attention that will bring about a change. So that is what J.Krishnamurti says. Merely listening to the words have no meaning. You have to have a complete understanding. You have to listen in depth. That brings about an understanding, knowledge, action, right action, not merely a knowledge or merely an understanding of words. So next we will see a few lines from Osho, A Bird on the Wing. There are many stories on the ancient days. One such thing is about the Zen practice. When the Zen master asks his disciple to talk about, say, a chair, but not to use the word. That is nowadays in some of the TV shows that happens, but it used to be a Zen practice where the disciple is asked to talk about a chair without using the word chair, so that the image of the chair goes off and the man tries to understand beyond the word of the chair and beyond the image of the chair. This practice was said. He will say something about this with respect to a chair or any other object, so that the disciple goes beyond the words, goes beyond the accumulated knowledge. The word rose is not a rose. Real rose is something different. The word rose is merely represents it. It is not the actual rose. But we all have images of rose, the knowledge of rose. So when you remove that knowledge and the word, then you go beyond that into the real rose, understanding. So this Zen practice used to be given to the disciples by the master in the olden days. So same way we have to take out the images and accumulated knowledge and understand the real thing behind the words in our everyday life, then there is real action. Reality is a flowing movement. Nobody knows what is going to happen. Nobody can predict the unpredictable. And further, Osho explains by a story. There were two monasteries in a neighborhood, and they were rivals. Each had their own followers and disciples, and were a little bit famous in that area. So they were rivals. So one day, a young disciple student from one monastery met in the marketplace. On the way to the marketplace, a similar young student disciple from the other monastery. Both boys were going for errands. Maybe to buy vegetables or some other provisions for the monastery. They were rivals. Somehow they have grown as rivals, these two monasteries. And they normally don't talk. But this fellow asked that student from the another monastery. He talked to him. And when he came back to the monastery, he told his master, I am puzzled. I was going to the monastery. I saw the other boy from our rival monastery. And I asked him, where are you going? He should have replied, I am going to the marketplace, or I am going to the vegetable shop, something. But he replied me, wherever the wind blows. So I could not reply, I could not say anything further. I was at a loss. He puzzled me. So he asked the master, how am I supposed to answer that? The master said, our monastery is superior to them. No one from our monastery should be dumbfounded. It never happens. Tomorrow when that boy comes, you ask him, if there is no wind, then this boy could not sleep whole night. He was memorizing. He was enacting the whole episode. He was supposed to ask where you are going, and the other fellow will answer, I am going wherever the wind blows. Then you should ask, if there is no wind, what will you do then? So he was repeating this, rehearsing this without sleeping. And next day morning again he went to the marketplace. On the way he met the fellow student in a similar place. And again the student asked, where are you going? This time the rival student from the rival monastery, he told him, wherever my feet leads me. So this guy who was rehearsed the answer master has told him, could not answer this. He was again at a loss. Again he came back to the monastery. He told the master, I can't believe it. That fellow changed the answer. I asked a question. Today he gives a different answer. He told me that wherever my feet leads, I am going. Then the master told him, again you have failed our monastery. Tomorrow when he answers us, you ask him, if your legs are cut off, what will you do then? Again this boy could not sleep. Again he practiced the question and the answer again and again. He rehearsed it. And the next day came. He again went to the market, and in the same way he met the fellow student from the rival monastery. This fellow became very disturbed. He was a little bit in tender hooks. And he asked him, "Where are you going?" And the boy answered, "I'm going to get vegetables for my monastery. I'm going to the market." This boy was totally at a loss now. He came back. He was completely agitated. That boy cannot be believed. He changes the answer every time. Today he said he's going to the vegetable market. That was a fact. I could not reply. This is what happens when you are working with knowledge, when you are working with words. Because life is not a fixed thing. Life goes on as it is. The questions change, answers change every time. And if you have read from your book or you work according to the conditioning of the society, then you have no answers. You give the wrong answers. Because reality is not a fixed phenomenon. You have to be present. You have to be spontaneously in it. Only then the responses are real. If you fix the answers beforehand, you are already dead. Only thing static is the dead ones. You already missed life. Tomorrow will come, but you will not be there. You will be fixed in the yesterday, that which has passed. All the minds are working in the verbal past, the dead ones. But life is dynamic, ever changing. The Pandit and scholars, they will answer what is in the book, not in the life, not with respect to reality. The answer is dead. Their answer is dead ones. It's not live ones. Live one is your life, changing every moment. It's not from memory. A man of knowledge is ready to make answers. You make ready-made answers. You ask a question, he answers. Answer is already there from the book or something. But the answer is irrelevant. Before the question, answer exists, but answer should come after you answer the question, because it's dynamic. A man of wisdom has no answers for you. He has nothing ready-made. He is open, he is silent. He'll respond. But first your question will resound in his being, not in his memory. Through his being, the response comes. Nobody predicts the response. So in this lecture, we understood the limitations of words. We believe in words. We believe in the past. We believe in the memories. We believe in the knowledge. And it is a dead one. It has its own limitations. It is good for technical things, but not for psychological things. Reality, life is dynamic, ever-changing. And it is in the present, ever-flowing. So we believe in the words which are being manipulated, and that deceives you. Reality is beyond the words. Go beyond the images accumulated. Go beyond the words. That's why our human beings fail. So with this we will end this episode. Stay with me for another episode. Subscribe to my channel. Share this video. Thank you.